Breaking news! The Baltimore Ravens may be on the verge of a change that will completely impact Coach John Harbaugh's game plan. Fans are excited, and I'm going to tell you all about it. But before you go any further, make sure you've already hit the like button if you believe Lamar Jackson can help us reach the Super Bowl this year. If possible, comment something like, "Go Ravens! Let's go to the Super Bowl!" Now, check this out. In the last few hours, we received news that has many fans and analysts excited. I'm talking about the possibility of signing cornerback Jaire Alexander from the Green Bay Packers. Reports have surfaced that the Packers are open to moving the two-time Pro Bowl cornerback for the right price, and that's exactly the kind of aggressive move that could take Baltimore's defense to the next level. But is it worth it? Jaire Alexander has been one of the top cornerbacks in the NFL when healthy. His ability to track top receivers, play physical coverage, and make game-changing plays would fit perfectly into the Ravens' defensive scheme. And let's not forget, he has history with Lamar Jackson. The two were teammates at Louisville, and their chemistry could bring an additional layer of confidence to Baltimore's locker room. On the surface, this trade seems like a no-brainer. The Ravens are in win-now mode with Lamar Jackson at the peak of his powers, and a dominant defense could be the missing piece to a Super Bowl run. But there's a catch. Alexander hasn't played more than 8 games in 3 of the past 4 seasons. Injuries have been a constant problem, and if the Ravens make this trade, they'd be taking on a sizable contract. If acquired before March 15th, Alexander would have $16.15 million against Baltimore's salary cap. If they wait until after that date, his salary cap hit would jump to $25.4 million. That's a steep price for a player who hasn't been able to stay on the field consistently. From Green Bay's perspective, trading Alexander before June 1st would save them $6.84 million in cap space. If they wait until after June 1st, they'd free up over $17 million. That means the Packers might be more inclined to hold onto him a little longer before making a final decision. The Ravens have to ask themselves, is it worth giving up draft capital for Alexander, or should they gamble on him being cut and signing him as a free agent? Baltimore's cornerback depth chart heading into 2025 is a little shaky. Marlon Humphrey and first-round pick Nate Wiggins are the top options, but beyond that, the group is thin. Brendan Stevens, Trayvon Mullen, and Jalen Armour-Davis are all set to be free agents. Alexander would be an immediate upgrade over Stevens and could form one of the league's best cornerback duos alongside Humphrey. If the Ravens decide to make a move, a 5th-round pick might be enough to get a deal done. That's a steal for a player of Alexander's caliber if he stays healthy. But that's the million-dollar question. The risk is real, but the potential reward is massive. With the NFL draft approaching, Baltimore could take another route. If they pass on Alexander, they could focus on a pass rusher in the 1st round, then target a cornerback in the 2nd or 3rd round. The draft is deep at the position, but finding a proven all-pro talent like Alexander is rare. The Ravens have limited cap space, sitting at just over $12 million. If they trade for Alexander, they'd need to make additional moves, possibly restructuring Ronnie Stanley's deal or extending Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson to free up room. It's doable, but it would require some maneuvering. The decision comes down to this. Do the Ravens risk waiting and potentially missing out on Alexander? Or do they go all in and make the trade now? If they believe they're one piece away from a Super Bowl, this is the type of aggressive move that could push them over the top. What do you think, Ravens fans? Should Baltimore trade for Jaire Alexander or wait and hope he gets cut? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about it. If the Ravens decide to hold off on the Jaire Alexander trade, it raises another question. What's the backup plan? Cornerback remains a critical need for Baltimore, and if they don't acquire Alexander, they'll have to address the position through free agency or the draft. Free agency offers a few intriguing options, but none with Alexander's upside. Players like Charvarius Ward, DJ Reed, and Asante Samuel Jr. could be targets, but each comes with their own set of risks. Ward would command a hefty contract, Reed has been solid but not elite, and Samuel Jr. lacks the size the Ravens typically covet in their defensive backs. If Baltimore opts for the draft route, the problem is depth. The 2025 class has some promising cornerback talent, but outside of the 1st round, it gets thin quickly. That means if the Ravens pass on Alexander, they might need to use their 1st-round pick on a corner. Names like Nate Wiggins, Kool-Aid McKinstry, or Benjamin Morrison could be in play. But if the team was hoping to target a pass rusher early, that plan could be in jeopardy. And speaking of pass rushers, Baltimore needs to make a decision there as well. The loss of Jadeveon Clowney leaves a hole opposite Odafe Oweh, and with the AFC loaded with elite quarterbacks, the Ravens must generate consistent pressure. That brings us to another potential trade target, Josh Sweat from the Philadelphia Eagles. Sweat could be a more affordable and immediate solution for Baltimore's pass rush. Unlike Alexander, he's been relatively healthy and productive over the past few seasons. The Ravens have the draft capital to make a move, and a fourth-round pick might be enough to get a deal done. But what about the offense? If Baltimore pulls off a trade for Alexander or Sweat, they may need to find additional help at wide receiver through free agency. The Ravens still need a reliable WR3 behind Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman. Some potential options include former Chargers wideout Josh Palmer, who could be an affordable and effective option, or even a trade for a big-name receiver like Deebo Samuel or DK Metcalf. A Deebo Samuel trade has been floated around the league, but the cost could be high. The 49ers may be looking to move on from his contract, and Baltimore could take advantage if the price is right. However, is another high-priced receiver what this team truly needs? With Derrick Henry already in the mix and Mark Andrews still a key part of the offense, how many targets would actually be available? That's why someone like Palmer might make more sense. He wouldn't cost much, and he's shown flashes of being a reliable playmaker in a complementary role. Then, there's the looming question about Mark Andrews. Could the Ravens actually consider trading him? There's speculation that Baltimore could move him in exchange for a high-value asset, especially if they want to go all in on defense or add another wide receiver. Teams like the Denver Broncos or Los Angeles Chargers could be interested. If the Ravens did deal Andrews, they'd likely target a high third-round pick or possibly even a second-rounder. However, moving Andrews would be a massive risk. He's Lamar Jackson's security blanket and one of the best tight ends in the league when healthy. While Isaiah likely has shown flashes of brilliance, he's not a proven TE1 yet. Trading Andrews would send a shockwave through the locker room, and Baltimore would need to be absolutely certain they could replace his production. This brings us back to the core question. What's the best way for the Ravens to maximize their championship window? Baltimore is in a rare position where they don't have a ton of holes, but the ones they do have are glaring. Cornerback, pass rush, and receiver depth are all concerns, and how they address them could define their 2025 season. The reality is that waiting on Alexander could backfire. If another team swoops in and trades for him, the Ravens are left scrambling for a lesser option. But if they overpay for him now and he struggles with injuries, it could be a costly mistake. The front office has a lot of work to do, and Eric DeCosta will need to make some difficult decisions in the coming weeks. With free agency approaching and the draft right around the corner, Baltimore can't afford to be passive. So, Ravens fans, what's the move? Should the team go all in for Jaire Alexander now, or should they wait? Would you rather see them prioritize a pass rusher or a wide receiver? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear from you. The Baltimore Ravens are at a crossroads, with key roster decisions that could define their 2025 season. The potential trade for Jaire Alexander is one of the biggest talking points, but questions remain about his durability and contract. Should Baltimore take the gamble now, or wait to see if he gets cut? Meanwhile, the Ravens still need a pass rusher and could look to the draft or free agency to fill that void. Names like Josh Sweat or even a blockbuster move from Max Crosby have been floated. On offense, adding a reliable WR3 like Josh Palmer could give Lamar Jackson another weapon. Mark Andrews' future also sparks debate. Would Baltimore actually move him to free up cap space and acquire more draft capital? It's a risky move, but one that could reshape the roster. With free agency and the draft approaching, the Ravens must act decisively. Do they go all in for a Super Bowl run or play the long game? Let me know what you think. Ravens fans, what's the best move for Baltimore?